All right, let's go. Welcome to Undaunted with Mr. Nice Guy. Normally in this slot, we'd be looking at spin that back with El Poo or maybe mutant politics with Brother Charles X, but neither available today. So I'm just kind of filling that slot. Don't expect this to be a regular thing, but uh, I got something to talk about since we got everything going on with President Trump. So let's just get on with the get. So now I'm doing all of this production by myself. So I apologize if I'm a little slow to trigger from one transition to the next, but let's get it on. So what we're going to talk about today is what I would describe as the hypocrisy for and against Donald Trump. Now, I need to be very clear. This is not going to be a hit piece on Donald Trump. I'm definitely not going to attack Donald Trump, the person. Donald Trump was a public employee of the highest order and there's a good chance of reclaiming that job. So discussing his policy and administration of that policy is fair game. Again, I'm not attacking a man. That's just not my nature. God bless him. God bless his family. God bless everybody. I'm not in the adversary business. I'm in the ally business, and I'm wishing for people to get it together. I'm not about throwing people away to the extent that anybody can be savaged. So salvaged. So that's where I'm coming from. And just to give you a little insight about me, so also where I'm coming from, I'm a conservative by belief, but sometimes liberal by policy because I don't believe in forcing my beliefs on other adults who do not share my beliefs. So what is more important to me than anybody doing anything just because I say so or because I think it is them doing what makes sense to them based on their beliefs and fully fleshing out the logic of their positions. And if we can compare notes, maybe they've worked out something better than I have. That'd be great because at the end of the day, I just want to get it right. It doesn't have to be my way. I just want to get to the best way, whatever that is. It's not preconceived by me. So we talk about democracy. Democracy is not the quickest way to govern, but at least in theory, it gives the people their loudest voice. And it also gives the people a vested interest in not just the output of a nation, but the input of a nation. I'm talking about government policy. I'm talking about administration and also what we do with what we collectively produce as a nation. It's supposed to be okay to have diverse beliefs and backgrounds as long as we can find common ground to dialogue about, how to try to figure out the best go forward and collectively govern ourselves. That's the theory. So, democracy should not be us against them to get what we want. It should be all of us working together to try to do right by all of us. So I'm not going to vilify any one side. I'm not coming from no Republican, no Democrat, no independent, any of that stuff. I'm nonpartisan. Again, like I said, I'm not in the adversary business. I'm in the ally business. We don't have to see eye to eye perfectly. Let's just figure out what we do see eye to eye and move forward with that. So that said, let's address the hypocrisy that orbits Trump, both for and against him. Again, this is not about Trump's hypocrisy. This is about the hypocrisy that orbits Trump. So let's talk about some of that. I see I got a comment here. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He says the meme is hypocrisy with Trump pick, but this is not a hit piece. Okay. Of course, Brother Walk, always trying to put it in there. Again, it's not hypocrisy just on Trump's behalf. It's also those that are being hypocritical in coming after him. So that's why it's not a hate piece. I'm gonna fairly address both things, Brother Walk. But I hear you seeing that there. So check it out. Now, if you identify with being a conservative, Trump has accomplished a lot of things during his presidency that may appeal to you. He appointed a record number of conservative judges and established a conservative majority in the Supreme Court that's probably going to be around for some time. That led to the overturning of Roe versus Wade. If you believe in, or should I say, if you identify as being as pro-life, that's probably a major accomplishment for you. If you believe in strong military, he definitely leaned into updating the technology and weaponry of the United States military. He definitely leaned into strong posturing and putting America in a position of at least intimidation from a force standpoint. So that's what he did. And if you believe in if you believe in having stronger border security or and reducing immigration, influx, he did some things. He built some of that wall and reinforced some wall in other places. And the immigration situation was less than what it is right now. So that's the thing. And even when COVID decimated the world, he did fast track the development of one of the vaccines. So he did champion that, and that's some of the stuff that he did. Now, granted, if you're on the flip side of that, if you are part of a marginalized minority, you're probably not a big fan of more conservative judges on the Supreme Court or anywhere else, because those people will tend not to gravitate towards your plight. If you identify as pro-choice, probably not a big fan of the whole Roe versus Wade thing. Trump built up the military, but he also kind of decommissioned the pandemic response resources that the prior administration put together in place, which incidentally undermined a softer landing of COVID's impact on not just the people of the United States, but the economy of the United States. This is an economy that he was so proud that he helped contribute to build up, but that was impacted by the very thing that he allowed to get to the extent that it did. So, and not only that, his constituency, people that supported him, having such a flippant response to things as simple as wearing a mask or respecting personal space, probably didn't contribute to the whole COVID situation as well. So, I had to point out that the COVID was not a Democratic concoction. It wasn't something that the Democrats conceived. This was something that impacted the world. So, it was a real thing, and people were dying at a far bigger rate than the regular flu. There were real dynamics. I don't want to get too much in that, but the bottom line is, it was a thing that seriously impacted us. We know it impacted us economically, but we lost a lot of people in the meanwhile as well. And if you're big into the environment, you probably got the impression that Trump is really not, on your side, because he's big into fossil fuels, into coal industry. And, he's got that thing about the windmills where he's saying that, it kills birds, and causes cancer. But, look, I could point out the drawbacks of every president. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is supposed to be. That's not his burden. As a president, the bottom line is you try to do what you can. You do what you see fit, what makes sense to you. And, what the thing that got me about Trump is this is a person who has such a firm grip on a large segment of the population. All he had to do was maybe toss a few bones to the other side and maybe dial back a little bit of that animosity, and maybe things would have played out a little bit differently for him. For a president that, for the president of everybody, it just kind of struck me crazy for him to draw that line in the sand and aggressively attack, such a large swath of the people. If nothing else, it's bad strategy. But again, my general advice is just winning over people that do not agree with you. It's better than making them wear a scarlet letter. So, that's the thing that I would suggest. When we talk about the hypocrisy, let's talk about some of the hypocrisy and we talk about kneeling. One thing that I did find terribly hypocritical about Trump and many Trump apologists is back when Black athletes were protesting police abuse and kneeling down during the anthem, they were being called un-American and told, if you don't like it here, leave. But when Trump lost the election in 2020, Trump supporters hosted American flags upside down in a protest with no issue. And, we might not even get into what happened on January 6, 2021. When you talk about critical race theory, when Black people wanted to teach true American history about past injustices toward Black people that had a real impact on us back then and continues to have an impact on us to this day, Trump and a lot of followers turn anything that can be called critical race theory into a boogeyman. But him being found guilty of what may very well be the equivalent of a ticky-tack foul in basketball is acceptable grounds for him to condemn everything about America under Biden. So you can say what you want about Biden and how his presidency is affecting Trump. We were affected way worse under George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and even Abraham Lincoln. So let's keep it 100. During COVID, white people lost their minds because they could not go to the beach. We were marching about police wrongfully killing black people and not being held accountable for it. And a lot of the Trumpers and Fox News, they were blaming black people for not, getting themselves shot. So, I mean, Fox News and Trump deemed Black Lives Matter a terrorist group, but not those good people from Charlottesville or those that breached the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Now, again, it's hard for some of us to take you the other side seriously when you complain so much about us complaining about major things. When you complain so loudly about relatively minor things. And again, I understand you have your interests. I understand that everybody has conflicts of interest, and that's not what makes us adversaries. That just basically makes us something that we understand that it's okay to agree to disagree about. But as tough as y'all may feel it is for Trump, he's not in jail. He will not be in jail anytime soon, if at all. He may have to pay a lot of money to somebody, but he has a lot of money left. He lives in Mar-a-Lago like a king with an ex-model wife, a successful, healthy, loving family. So, bottom line, what I'm saying is that Trump is okay. You know what I'm saying? All of us we're all brothers and sisters on this planet, not just the people in your household, not just the people that look like you, not just the people on your block, not just the people in your neighborhood, not just the people in your city, your state, your country, everybody on this planet. So not only do we have an obligation to factor all the people on this planet, but as the most powerful stewards of this planet, we have a responsibility for every other form of life on this planet as well. So if you understand ecosystems, you understand it's not just the short game, but the long game. So that's why I lean into the environment and science and things like that, because the bottom line is I do believe in karma. I believe in God, but I also believe that there's a natural karma of what goes around comes around. And if you don't have the foresight to plan ahead or to work in your best interest, you will counter those and it'll be counterproductive. But I say all that to say that I do care about Trump. I care about his family. I care about everybody, even if they hate me. But I do root for accountability. I do root for justice. I do root for remorse and learning from people's mistakes. And, most importantly, I root for admitting mistakes. To me, that this is a key thing. We understand that we're not perfect and it's okay. We can have good logic behind come to whatever conclusions that we do, but we still need to learn from our faux pas and our mistakes, and that'll give us our best means to go forward. And we definitely don't want to dig into mistakes. So and really, my big issues with Trump are mostly his behavior and lack of accountability. His policy is not a threat to me and my beliefs. I do not believe he embraces science or concern for the environment like I feel he should. But I'm going to be okay if he becomes president again. Not necessarily okay with him becoming president, but be okay if he becomes president again. Look, you may not rock with his policy, but let's not act like he's the boogeyman either. So let's address some hypocrisy against him. Trump is not a threat to democracy. He has been a threat to democratic processes. He's been a threat to implementation of democracy, perhaps trying to stifle voices of democracy, but democracy did not die with those acts. He lost the election and he was removed from office. And the thing about it is, if Trump wins the election this November, it will be democracy that puts him there. So, that's kind of the issue. He's not the threat to democracy that the people putting it out there. And, what you should really be asking yourself is why somebody many paint as Simon Legree is neck and neck with the old guy in the polls. If Trump is so terrible, why would the people still rally behind him like they seemingly are and not rally behind the other guy? So, if Trump is elected, it will largely about who they pitted against him. Instead of people worrying about the crazy things he will do in the White House, the numbers suggest that people are just worried about the crazy things that the old guy will continue to do if he's there. So, Biden may have been a necessity to get America through COVID, but we're probably not going to be seeing another one of those situations for the next 4 years. So the Dems should have been working on a more desirable long-term solution over trying to squeeze more juice out of what perhaps should have been a stopgap at best. So as long as they keep stuffing clowns into that clown car, you're never going to take the circus seriously. But at least you know what you bargained for when you bought a ticket. So, at the end of the day, do your research, vote your policy, and live with the results. Me, look, I'm not going to endorse Biden, but I will confess that I'm probably going to vote for him. And the reason why is because my priorities are science, the environment, and civil liberties. But if your priorities are the military, border security, and your children not having to learn about what your ancestors did to mine, Trump is probably the way to go. And that's okay. Democracy is not about your person winning. It's about everybody having a voice and that collective voice being heard. So after the election, let's just remember, we're all in the same boat here, and to show each other the respect. Sorry, show each other the respect and compassion that we all deserve. So this happened a whole lot quicker than I anticipated, but my main thing is to say that Trump is not the worst thing we got to worry about. And the fact of the matter is, their side, the Trump side, they are passionate about their guy. Biden's people are not passionate about Biden. And, just because someone has a different concept than you, when you talk about abortion, like I'll tell you about how I feel about abortion. I don't believe in abortion. I don't like it, but I don't believe in policing it. I think that that's kind of your business. And part of the reason I feel that way is, I feel that there's probably way too many people in this world. And there's a finite resources. And, that's just me feeling that I probably need to step out of ways. It's sort of like natural selection that, you'll police your own things. So you'll get that freedom. Again, I'm not co-signing on the act because I think for the most part, you should at least be carrying through the process. If there's some danger to the mother, danger to the child or whatever, those are exceptions. When you're talking about someone being raped, and even that's a conflict for me because I, look at the color of my skin. We know that a lot of us Black people look the way we do because we are the byproduct of rape. We are the byproduct of torture and oppression. But the bottom line is a lot of us are having the opportunity to enjoy the life that we're enjoying now after a fashion because we persevered. And, to deprive that of someone who's not here, I'm conflicted on that. But again, like I said, I do believe in that choice being with the mother and with the women. So I'm pro-choice by policy. I'm pro-life by belief. So now I was going to close it out, but I think I can give you a little bit more. When you talk about things like the economy, we understand that it's another thing I should be confessing about. I'm a socialist. I'm a democratic socialist, unapologetically, and that's something that's going to turn off a lot of people that just feel like, oh, rah rah rah, we're capitalists, not really understanding that America is not a capitalist country. A capitalist country would be like a third world country that has no rules, that's completely ruled by just money and power. That's what pure capitalism is. When you went to school, they taught you what America has. We have a mixed economy. So we have some capitalist traits and then we have some socialist traits. For example, like fire, if there's a fire, you can call the firemen, the fire people, the fire department, and they'll come and put out a fire, and you're not paying on that it's not like Uber, it's not like whatever, the pizza man or nothing. You're not paying on a per usage type basis. It's just something that everybody has access to. And that's a socialist convention. You can have whatever issue you want about it, but it's basically a socialist convention. It's the same for the police, and I'm of the position that I feel that, when it comes to health, when it comes to medical stuff, when it comes to just people having some place to stay, when it comes to food, just basic human things, I think that everybody should have those. Now, if you want to have the nicest fits, or you want to have you a PS5, or you want to have you a nice whip, or whatever it is that you want to build up your house, that's the stuff that you really need to work for, and that's what you need to have. But if everybody had just sort of like basic necessities covered, I feel like crime would there'd be far less incentive to do crime. Not only that, I think about a lot of these old people that are, perhaps shouldn't be driving around, but they're driving around because they have no choice. And, they're getting in these accidents, hurting themselves, hurting other people. And, as a society, we should have it set up that old people don't have to drive around. They should be able to call up a free Uber. They need to go to the grocery store. Someone should pick them up, take them to the grocery store. You talk about, somebody needs to help them put up something. They don't necessarily have family members over there. That's you should have someone to be able to send to old people and have that. So let me put this person up there. He said blacks support Biden. I don't know if that's I think it's kind of a dangerous thing to say, because this is something that actually motivates black people to not want to support Biden. There's a lot of black people, shout out to my brother Walk, that feel like black people vote Democrat by rote. It's just like they're not even thinking about it. They're not being a free-minded or really thinking. It's just something that it's ingrained to them to do. And probably a bit of it's coming out of the civil rights movement, and the people that were involved with that. And again, I'm nonpartisan, so I'm not going to tell you either way. I'm not going to tell you about Democrats and Republicans. I know Republicans will love to tell you that, hey, Republicans are the party that of the freedom. They're the party of Abraham Lincoln, and all this other stuff. But they kind of conveniently leave out that whole thing about the Southern switch, when basically both parties, literally sort of like change their alignment. So that's kind of an unfair thing to hide behind. Again, I believe in leaning in policy. I'm going to listen to both sides. When I was growing up, Republicans and Democrats weren't necessarily crazy. They may have had different ways of seeing things or different ways of dealing with a thing. But the bottom line is they were sort of a yin and yang that helped sort of like give you some type of balance. Like, the Democrats were more idealistic and theoretical and adventurous as to trying new things and trying to adapt as we evolve and grow as a people, whereas Republicans were more practical and conservative. And the thing about it is you can't just jump off a cliff. You do have to have some practicality about you. You do have to have some perspective about you. You do have to consider how, what's going to be the end result of this as far as effectiveness. Then you're going to talk about how it's going to affect the economy. The bottom line is you can't just be a kid doing whatever pops into your head. You still need that parent sort of like reeling you back, letting you know that, okay, don't just jump head first in this thing. Let's be sensible and see the whole thing for what it is. So that was a good balance. Unfortunately now it's like this, super partisan McCarthyism, where one side is, particularly like, we're not trying to have anything or hear anything that the other side has got to say. It's our way and they're the devil and we're the righteous people. And, with all due respect, that is more the hysterics of the Republican Party. The impression I get from the Democratic Party is, and don't get me wrong, they've got their extremes too. But my impression is that they're at least willing to consider these things, a lot of these things. Obviously, you talk about something like a pro-choice, pro-life, abortion. That's a hard line in the sand. So that's just a difference of policy, and the American people have to speak about, what's going to be done about that. But I do believe that Democrats are much more willing to work with Republicans. You had that the border situation. We understand that the Democrats have completely botched this border situation. They were so concerned about the Trump's rhetoric that sounded like very racist about, the things that were happening at the border, but sort of like overlooking the real, complications of that type of stuff if it's not being handled, because, it's not just people from down south that are coming through the border. You can get terrorists coming through the border. I mean, that Asia has all type of channels and stuff where they sort of like help you with your language, help you with your money, sort of like shunt you through this path and do all of these things to sort of like bring you into the country illegally. And these things do have an impact on a country that has finite resources and finite jobs, and when you put people in desperate situations, they do desperate things, and this is the type of stuff that can contribute to crime as well. But talking about that border situation. Now, again, I don't know the facts. All I know what has been presented, and the smell test suggests that this is absolutely what did happen. But after Republicans and Democrats came to a decision about, some type of compromise what to do about the border bill, they got that phone call from Mr. Trump saying, hey, don't give them a win. And again, this can't be about wins. I understand how politics works. I understand how strategy works, but we're all in the same boat. What we need to figure out is what's going to be the best solution. What Trump could have done is basically just got out the way, let them do their border bill and say, okay, that's good. Now they're being serious. Now they're figuring out the things that I've been telling them all along, and that plan's okay, but I got an even better plan. At least progress us down the path. So you got to understand, it can't just be all about an individual's politics. It's got to be about how all of this stuff impacts all of us. So, that's the ugliness of politics. The thing about Trump, a lot of his appeal in the beginning, Trump kind of gave us the Ross Perot that we never were able to get. He was a businessman, a successful businessman. And we understand, like, these career politicians, they don't have the perspective that we would think, a businessman could bring to the situation. And, he was very gangster about the things that he did. The fact that he put all those judges in there. I remember when Obama was trying to get this judge approved for the Supreme Court, and the Republicans were like, oh, you shouldn't be appointing Supreme Court justices in a lame duck year because you may not be reelected, and you should let the people be decided. That was the position. And then when that same situation was with Trump, they were like, oh, hell no, we're just going to appoint everybody that we can try to appoint to and get what we want to get. So, that was their strategy. And, it was effective. But I mean, it sort of like broke the rules. It sort of like, got away from the tradition. And again, that's kind of what you wanted out of him. But I would argue that maybe he went a little bit too far with it. For a person that came out of it as a non-politician, as a businessman, he ended up being a hyper politician, a super politician, an extremist politician. And again, his policy doesn't really hurt me personally, but I mean, the rhetoric, the childishness, and then the free pass that a lot of Republicans give him. Look, Biden is just not a very good candidate. Not to mention that he's very old, not to mention his missteps in the far distant past, not to mention his missteps, recently. But at least he conducts himself as an adult. He does try to govern everybody, not just the people that rock with him in his particular, side of the fence. So, I mean, he at least makes those efforts. When you talk about issues that affect Black people, when you talk about, like, let's say when we're having all these police situations, this is a person that dug into like police reform, at least in theory, at least presented them that way. I'm not sold on what any politician says, but at least you got to be telling me something that I want to hear. Because when a person is telling me that critical race theory, I don't want my kids to feel bad about, what people did in the past, I'd be telling you, yo, bruh, your kids shouldn't be feeling bad about what somebody else did. Your kids should be like, oh, terrible things were done then, but we know now better than this, and we're going to be better than them, and that's okay. So, white people shouldn't feel guilt about what other white people did in the past, unless you're contributing to the problems that those things created. If you're contributing to how that's still affecting us today, well, now you are, bringing yourself into fault and bringing some guilt upon yourself. So I would say that, look, just be honest, just be straight up. Don't play, don't get in the politics game. I know Trump's going through with his things, whatever. I know that he acts like a kid at times, but just say that this, notwithstanding how he acts, his policy more represent my policy, and that's what I'm going to rock with because I think it's going to work. And that's what Barr had to do. That judge that that he appointed, that has basically come out lambasting him. But he's like, look, I don't think he's fit for president. It should be somebody else. But, hey, he's better than Biden because at least he's going to champion my policy. And the same happened with Nikki Haley. She's talking about all this stuff, how terrible Trump was. But, she's, tucking her tail and she's rolling with Trump because, again, this comes down to policy. And that's what it's going to come down to for all of us. We're not going to have a perfect candidate. We're just going to have the candidate we're going to have, and we're going to have to deal with that. And, that's just what it is. So again, I don't hate Trump. Trump, I know I'm not the least bit of your concern. You don't give a damn about me, but I'm just telling you right now, brother, I have no hostility for you. I wish you well. I wish you well for your family. And it's the same way I feel for Biden. It's the same way I feel for the people in Iran. The same way I feel for the people of Gaza. I may not be a fan of a lot of things that Hamas has done. I'm not a fan of it. But you know what? God bless those individuals, and I would hope that they would come to a better way of functioning. So again, I'm of the position that I want to work with you. I understand that we're not going to agree on certain things. I'm a religious person. I have my religion, and other people are going to have their religious views that are in conflict with mine. But again, we both like to eat. So let's work on both of us getting fed. We may not eat the same things. My religion is very restrictive of what to eat. But, the bottom line is we can still figure out our common ground and work on that. So, that's probably all I should say about that. And that having said, I would say that next week we're gonna have spin that back and what subject we're gonna have El Poo do something. It's gonna be some old school hip hop, 1979, 1999. We got the Focus Up Network, the Focus Up show that we have every Saturday at 9 a.m. Catch it on live, catch it on replay, and we have Mutant Politics that we do once a month in the slot. That's this slot that I'm occupying right now that we do when El Poo is not available. But and then we have Sex Talk with Walk Thursday at 9 p.m. Brother Walk, he talks about grown folk heterosexual conversation. That's not a knock on homosexuals. That's just that he's only going to talk about what he's an expert on and what he can give information and feedback on. So that's what he's going to do. But that having said, let me cue out. What's going on here? Peace out, folks.